I'm Caleb Brooks here with Sports Blitz, and I'm joined by UFC light heavyweight contender Dom Reyes, the number 4 light heavyweight fighter in the UFC. Dominick, a former safety at Stony Brook University, played football, made the transition over into MMA, and right now has himself right on the cusp of fighting for a championship. Dominick, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
You know, man, I've been following you for a long time. I'm a big UFC fan. I've actually been following the sport since Chris Weidman knocked out Anderson Silva. I think that got a lot of people into it, and that really got me as deep into the sport as I am. And, you know, to see you sitting here fighting him now and to be fighting him at light heavyweight, you're going to be welcoming him into a new weight division. You know, what are some of the challenges you think that he is going to face coming up in a weight class now, especially going up 20 pounds, whereas some other weight classes you only really have to jump up 10?
Oh yeah, I completely agree. It's going to be tough for him, man. First of all, he's now the smaller guy. You know, usually at middleweight he was the bigger guy fighting smaller guys. Now he's a small guy fighting bigger guys. So all his advantages he had before are now nullified. Another thing is, you know, moving around with more weight. You know, moving around the octagon, you can't move around with as much vigor as you can if you weigh 185. I took all the skills I learned in football. I was a safety when I played, so I was always moving in space. And footwork. Footwork's a huge part of the game in football, and it's everything in fighting. So for me, it was kind of seamless. I just had to learn the technical aspects of BJJ and obviously the technical aspects of striking as well, but with my attention in detail, it really made it easy for me to transition.
You know, you have some pretty good jiu-jitsu. You have 2 finishes in your career, you know, from submissions. And, you know, you get guys that come over from a different sport and they don't like jiu-jitsu or, you know, they just want to strike. And so for you, I mean, what was it like when you started doing jiu-jitsu and you got into it? Did you fall in love with it, or is it something that you kind of have to make yourself go do every day?
When I first started jiu-jitsu, I fell in love because I wrestled, you know, throughout most of my life. I started wrestling at 8 years old. So it was like wrestling, but like way cooler because it was kind of opposite of everything I learned in wrestling, but the same basic principles, you know, applied. But yeah, I did fall in love with it when I first started it because there's I mean, to this day, I'm still learning something new every single day. Like, there's so much to learn. There's so many different techniques, and it's all little small nuances. And it's really cool. I really enjoyed jiu-jitsu.
You know, I was telling you, I'm a huge UFC fan, but people really in this area don't know as much about MMA. They're not as into it. But, you know, I was listening to your interview with UFC Unfiltered, and I heard you kind of talk about how you felt like your body started recovering more when you left football and started fighting instead. And so I just kind of want you to kind of explain to people why maybe fighting is not as violent as everybody kind of thinks it is compared to football.
So fighting is a very violent sport. You know, it's fighting. But in terms of overall wear and tear and damage you take with concussive force, you know, like, we're in this together. Like, he's hurting, I'm hurting. We're here to kind of have somebody to go through it with. In MMA, it's like, this is your career. Nobody's going to be there with you. When the cage locks, it's just you. When the octagon door closes, it's just you. You know, there's nobody to help you. So it's a kind of different mentality overall. And usually in MMA, we're a little bit older, and we have a better understanding of how things should be. When you're younger, you don't really know much about anything, just what your coaches tell you. So it's a little bit different in that aspect.
What are some of the differences in nerves between preparing to go out and play a football game on a Saturday and then, you know, for what you're going to go and do on Friday night when you go and fight Chris Weidman in the octagon?
I think it's very similar between a night football game and a fight. It's just kind of amplified a little bit because it's just on you, and the repercussions of losing are a lot more serious. Like, in a football game, you just lose and that's it. Like, you lost. In a fight, you lose and you could have a broken face. You could be knocked out in front of everybody you ever met in your life. You know, there's a lot more on the line, I think. But at the same time, it's like losing is losing. You know, you don't want to lose.
And, you know, you're coming off a
Still
split
nerves,
decision
still
win.
excitement. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and, you know, you're coming off a split decision win, and you were right there, you know, and almost got your first loss. But you were able to kind of get through that. And so, you know, getting over something like that, when you're able to get a split decision win, you know, a close one, I thought it was a great fight between you and Vulcan. Are you kind of going into this one now with Chris Weidman? You know, you've had some people that have kind of said that they feel like Vulcan won. I went back and watched it. I still feel like you won the fight. But, you know, are you kind of going out now to kind of prove to people, like, look, you know, that this is me. I'm a winner, and you know, I'm going out to prove that I really am a title contender here?
I would say I'm going out there to prove I'm a title contender. That Vulcan fight left a bad taste in my mouth. You know, I didn't finish the fight. I didn't fight up to my capabilities of who I know I am and what I'm capable of. And it bothered me. I'm still bothered by it because, I mean, I moved on, but it's like I'm better than that. Like, I didn't fight like I know I'm capable of fighting. And this fight for me is going to be me getting back to being me and fighting the way I know how to fight, you know, where it doesn't matter what you're doing, dude. Like, you're fighting me. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm going to get back. I feel like I'm going to get back on track to being me.
What are some of the challenges that Chris Weidman you feel are going to, you know, what are some of the things he's going to throw at you that you maybe haven't seen from some other fighters, you know, knowing that you're fighting a former champ here in the UFC?
So Chris is very good at mixing it up. The thing is, Chris is going to shoot more than anybody I've fought so far to date.
Dominick, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much for having me on.